John here with RealTruck.com. Today I'm going to show you how to install the Firestone airbag suspension kit and Air-Rite air control systems on this 2015 GMC Sierra 2500. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pull our tires and wheels off our truck and get those out of the way so that we can get in there and work a little easier. Once the tires are off, then we're going to take our jounce bumper off of here, and that's really simple to do. You just grab a hold of it with a pair of channel locks and give it a little twist and pull. There we go. Once that's out, then we're going to start putting our hardware that's going to go in here to hold our air suspension kit in place. So let's get that on there. So then we're going to take our jounce bumper cup insert and we're going to put it in here. And then what we want to do is we want to rotate this once we get it up in here to lock it in place. Now, what I'm going to do then is just going to take a hammer and a punch to move this so we can lock it in. Before we attach our mounting bracket onto where we took our jounce bumper out, we're going to have to take our e-brake cable loose. And this is the bracket right here that holds it. Goes up in behind here, back up in here. Just it's a 13mm bolt. Just take that loose so we can move our cable out of the way and attach this. Now we'll have to put that back when we're all done, but for right now we need that out of the way. So once we have our upper bracket on, then what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here to the workbench and attach our lower bracket. You can see on the bottom of our air suspension bag there's a threaded hole there, and we're just going to put this on top of that like so. And then we have the short Allen head bolts that are going to go right in there to hold that on. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to slide our airbag up into position here. Now on the top of these airbags there's some pins, and if you notice when you put your upper mount on, there's holes in the upper mount. What we're going to do is we're going to put our air valve piece into that larger hole, slide this up, move this around to fit that notch into one of those smaller holes, and that's going to be our lineup pin. Now what we have to do then is we have to go down here on the bottom plate, and we need to mark this bottom plate so that way we can line this up to tighten up the air bag onto the bottom plate. Alright guys, so down here on the bottom plate is where we marked this. So what we want to do is we want to line up our mark on the bottom of our air suspension bag and on our lower mounting bracket. And once we have those lined up, then go ahead and tighten up this lower bolt to hold this in place. Okay, so we have that in place and ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to start attaching this into the truck. So let's get to that. So we're ready to put our bag in here. So we're going to put it up where it goes, and we had it marked out so we can get it locked in place where we had it. Then we're going to take our washer and our nut on top of the air valve hole in the top of here and get that started down in there. Go ahead and just leave that loose for now, and then we'll get ready to start putting the rest of this together here. All right, right, guys, so we're just about ready to move to the next step, but first we want to tighten up the nut that we put on the top of our air stud. And then once we have that tight, then we want to go back and install our air valve in there. We have our air valve now, and what we're going to do is we're going to install it in the top of that air stud where we just put that bolt and washer on, and it's just going to go in there just like this, and we're going to tighten that up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up in here. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see it, that's why I wanted to show you on this other one. And I'll get this started and tightened down, and then we'll be ready to start attaching our bottom pieces here to hold this thing down to the axle housing. So the next thing we're going to do here, guys, then is we're going to attach our bail clamp, and that's going to go right around our leaf springs and our U-bolts for our leaf springs. And then it's going to go right into these holes in this bottom bracket. So we're going to get that through there and go ahead and start one of our flange nuts on there. And then we'll attach the one on the other side over here. Now these we're going to want to leave loose for right now until we get everything set in place here. The next thing we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to take our long carriage bolts and we're going to drop them right down through this hole in the lower bracket here. And then we're going to put our axle strap bracket on here. Once I get it lined up, there we go. And then a flange nut to hold it on. And then we're going to move her over and do the one on the back side of here. Just like we did this one. All right, so we've got our axle strap bracket in place. So at this time we can go back and start tightening these all up. What we want to do is tighten these two first, and so because that's going to pull this down on top of the axle where it's supposed to be, and then we'll tighten these, and this will keep it against the side where it's supposed to be. What you want to do with your air tubing is take it apart, open it up, and just touch the ends together so you get equal distance, and then using a tubing cutter, cut it in half. And the reason why you're going to do that is because what you want to do then is take one end of your tube and put it in this valve that we have on the bag we have in the truck, and the other one would go into your Schrader valve, which is where you're going to air up your airbags normally. And it's just going to go in the same way. You push it in there, and then you're going to put some air in this thing, spray some soapy water all over these connections, check for leaks, and if there's some leaks there you can tighten it up, or you may, if you didn't get this cut right, have to take it back out and recut it, reinstall it to get it to stop leaking. But what we're going to do with ours is we're going to be installing the Air-Rite air control system in the truck, which is going to allow us to be able to control these airbags with a little air compressor deal from inside the truck. So we're going to do that, and we're going to show you guys how to do that too. So let's get this one on the other side of the truck. Then we'll be ready to start putting our air control system in. So let's get to it. Okay, so what we've done is we've went ahead and looked at our truck and found a suitable location to mount all of our equipment. However, on our particular install, it's going to take a little bit more work than we would have liked to have done, but it's going to be really awesome anyway. So what we've done is we found a place under the truck where we can mount all this stuff and keep it away from the debris and rocks and those kinds of things which could damage it. And we've went and made ourselves a plate and attached all of our components to this plate, and we're going to mount this whole plate up underneath the truck. And you could do the same thing if you'd like. It just makes it really easy and convenient. It's all in one location, easy to do. Or you can pretty much mount these things wherever it's going to work on your application. So for us, we're doing it this way. Now the first thing we're going to do here then is we're going to go ahead and start putting everything together, because we want this thing pretty much built before we put it up under the truck. That's going to save us some underneath work. So let's get to that. All right, guys, so we've got everything mounted up. We've got our location figured out on our truck. So what we're going to do then is we're going to start putting this together. And the first thing we need to do is take our male ends here that we have, and we're going to install these on the ends of the tank in the large holes on both ends of the tank. Pretty easy. We want to make sure that we get at least a couple of the threads in and tighten these up here a little bit. Okay, we've got those attached. So then the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to install our pressure valve, and that's the one that looks just like this, and this is going to go right here. Now, when you're doing this, guys, keep in mind that you want to make sure that you screw these in, that they're tight enough that they're not loose, and also that you have enough threads in that they actually get down on. You can see this compound that's on the threads here. You want to make sure that when you're screwing it in, you actually get it down to where this is actually going inside where you're putting it into, because that's going to help seal everything and keep this stuff from leaking on you, and you don't want it to be leaking. The next thing we're going to do here, guys, then is we're going to take our inline valve and we're going to take our 1/4 inch MPT female and male ends, and we're going to attach them to our valve. Now it's important to get these on here straight so that way they seal properly. Okay, got that one. And then this one we're just going to screw into this side. And then what we want to do then is go ahead and tighten these down. And then what we're going to do with this, once we have this put together here, is we're going to attach this to our plate. And so what I've done then is I've just taken a zip tie and put a couple more holes in our plate here, and what we're going to do is just zip tie this to the plate with a really heavy duty zip tie, and that's going to hold this in place for us. And the reason why we're setting it up like this is because we've got a T that's going to go in here, and then a line and a valve that's going to come off of there. It's going to go from here into the T and such, and then this one is going to run into our ECU, so we want to put that in a place where it's really convenient to hook up all of our wiring properly. So we got that on there good and tight. What I'm going to do then is I'm just going to cut this off. All right, guys, at this point you should probably only have one of these left in your hardware kit, and that's going to attach to the end of our compressor line here, the steel braided line. And we're going to put that on there and tighten that up. Okay, as you guys can see here, also I went ahead and put a little Teflon tape on there because this didn't have any of that thread coating on there, and I don't want to make sure that that doesn't leak on us. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of our airline tubing, and we're going to connect here to here, and that'll keep this hose back here nice and neat out of the way so that it's not getting in the way of anything. So let's get some of our tubing here. We're going to use the red tubing. And what we want to do is just take the end of it. What we're going to do is just take the end of it, make sure that it's square on the end of here, otherwise it's not going to set in there and seal properly. And it's really simple, guys. You just put it in here and just push it in until you feel it hit bottom, and then it's locked in, it's not going to come out. Really cool thing. And then we're going to take another piece and we're going to hook it in over here on this end. So what we need to do is cut that. Now, it's important when you cut this that you use a tubing cutter, because if you don't and you smash it down and it flattens out or something, it's not going to set properly, and you're going to have issues with it leaking and such, and we don't want to have to deal with leaks at all. Just going to measure it out to about where we want it. And then we'll use our tubing cutter and boom. And then we'll do the same thing on this end. push it in there until we feel it locked down, and there we go. All in place, ready to go. So then what we're going to do is we're going to move over here to this side, and we're going to do something similar over here where we have our, let me just grab our airline tubing here because we're going to be hooking up a lot of this. Our ECU, on the top of our ECU, and I'm going to raise this up here just a second so you guys can see on the top of the ECU, it's written down as to what each part is for on here. We're going to be hooking our hose into the one that says in, which is the one on the far end over here. And we're just going to give that a little push, and then we're going to bring it around to our inline valve. Now we will make sure that we, whenever you do this, guys, always make sure you leave enough hose here that once you push it inside, it's not going to be too short. So we're going to cut that one right about there. And then we're going to take that and just push it right inside our inline valve like so. Okay, then the next one we're going to do is we're going to put into our tank up here, just like that. And then we're going to put this T-valve in here. So we want to cut this off. And this, you kind of use your own discretion as to where you're going to go with it. I think we're going to put our T-valve right in this area right here. So that means I want to cut this off right about there. Okay, the same thing. It's really nice. These are all push connectors. And the really cool thing is, guys, if you ever need to take them out, all you gotta do is push down on this piece right in here, push it down, and it comes right loose again. So that's kind of a neat thing there. So then we're going to stick this other end into the other side of our inline valve. Push that in until it locks in. And you can always give these things a little tug too, guys, just to make sure they're in there and that they're not loose and going to fall out or anything. Measure that out to about where we want it, which is going to be right about there. And then we're going to cut it off as well. And then attach it into our T-valve, right like so. Now what we're eventually going to do once we have this under the truck is we're going to be running some more tubing off of the T-valve here, and what it's going to do is it's going to go out to one of these Schrader valves, and what that's going to allow us to do is have access to hooking up our air line so that we can use this to air up tires or whatnot. If we need to use it for something, we'll just be able to hook it right onto this valve which runs into here. So at this point, we've pretty much got everything together on here that we're going to put on here right now. So let's get ready to get this up under the truck. All right, guys, so what we've done here then is we've went ahead and taken our plate that we mounted all of our components on and mounted it up here underneath the truck. And what we did then is we used the bracing for the bed, the braces that run across it to attach our plate to, make sure it's nice and secure, it isn't going anywhere. So at this point, we're ready to go ahead and start hooking up all of our wiring and running our air lines to our airbags. So what we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is plug in our ECU, and that's going to be the plug that's in the harness that's wrapped in the wire loom that comes with your kit. And we're just going to plug that in right here like so. And then we're going to take this red wire that comes out of our relay on this side, and that's going to plug into our inline valve over here. Now on this, just so you guys know, it doesn't matter which wire you use to plug it into. So there we go. Okay, we've got that plugged in, so we're going to go ahead and grab our other harness and start hooking up the rest of these wires. So we're going to grab our other harness, and that's the one with the big long orange and blue wires. And the orange wire we're going to plug into the red wire on our compressor. And the blue one we're going to plug in to a wire coming out of our pressure switch. Okay, so next thing we're going to do then is we're going to start running these wires up to the front of the truck where we can get them all hooked up to the battery. So we can see here we've got all of our wires ran up here to the front of the truck. So now what we need to do is go ahead and hook them up. The first thing you need to do is open up your fuse box and find a fuse in there that's key on ignition power, because we only want this compressor and stuff to be running when the key's on. Otherwise it's sitting and kind of constantly running around your battery dead. Not cool. So we found that, and now we're ready to start hooking up our wires so we can get this thing operational. So let's get to that. What we're going to do then is we're going to go ahead and unhook our battery here, because we're going to be wiring in our controls to this battery. Also, you can see here where we've put an adapter onto our fuse, and the fuse we use on this one, which may be different on your truck, is just one that's for miscellaneous ignition on stuff, and that's where we're going to be hooking in for our yellow wire is going to go there. So let's get this battery undone. Okay, once that's unhooked, then we can go ahead and start hooking up our wires. And of course, your red one with the fuse adapter here is going to go onto the positive side of the battery. We're going to put that in there. And then we also have a ground that's going to go on there as well. Now, what I'm going to do here is just make sure we got these wires so they're not wrapped together here. Then once we have these laid in, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and wrap them all up and put them nice and neatly up in here so they're not getting in the way of anything. And once we have those on there, then we can put the nut back on here to hold those on. Okay, we've got our ground wire back on over here, so we'll put the nut back on that one. So we've got all that hooked up. So the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to hook in the yellow wires, and that's going to hook into the key on ignition power. And what we're going to do then with those is that we're going to go ahead and put a couple ends on these so that a way we can hook them right onto our connector adapter that we put on our fuse. So let's get that. You can see here what we've done is we've taken our two yellow wires from our harnesses, and we've wired them together on a spade connector, and we're going to attach them onto our fuse tap down here in the fuse box. And that's just simply a matter of sliding that on there, and then we're just going to, at this point, clean this up, put all the covers back on this, and then we're going to go to the back and start hooking up our lines for our Air-Rites. So let's get all this mess cleaned up, and then we'll come back and show you what we've done. We've got our wiring all done and buttoned up front, so now it's time to go ahead and hook up our air lines. So what we're going to do, now it's going to vary depending on your vehicle, but with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to run our tubing across the top up here, because we're going to be plugging it into our ECU here, and we're just going to bring it across the top of this because we want to keep it away from the exhaust and away from moving parts. So I'm going to bring this through here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this tube right here inside the frame, and what we'll do then is we'll bring it out through this hole here and connect it in over there. But what I'll show you here real quick what we've done, just because this is important, to go ahead and tape up the end of this, because you don't want this thing getting full of dirt when you're pushing it through that frame. So I'm going to go ahead and put it through there. Let's just take a pick and grab the end of it here to pull it out. And what that's going to do then is that's just going to help protect the airline, keep it out of the way of the exhaust. And then we're just going to bring it right over to the top of our airbag. If you've done like I have and taped it too good, then you can just snip a little of that off. And then we're just going to take it and push it right into the connector on top of our airbag. Make sure that it locks in, push it down and then give it a little pull to make sure it's locked, and it is. So then we'll take the rest of this and we're going to run this over the top of those brackets, just like I showed you earlier. And then we're also going to use some zip strips and zip tie this up there so that way it doesn't fall down on the exhaust or anything. What we're going to do is run the tube over here, and we're going to make sure you got it on the right one, and that one has the right rear. So we're going to cut this tube off right about here. Now it's very important, guys, that you use a tubing cutter on these and keep them straight so that way they don't leak on you. Now once that's cut off, then we'll do the same thing over here. We'll go to the right rear. We're just going to push it in there, make sure that it's locked in, and there you go. Now we're going to do the same thing with the one for the left rear. It's going to be a little easier to do that one because we don't have to worry about the exhaust or anything. So we grab some tubing and we'll get the left rear hooked up. Put our tubing in, push it down real good, and then always give it just a little tug just to make sure that it's locked in. And then we'll go ahead and run our tubing over to our ECU. I'm going to plug this one into the left rear, just like that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to run our tubing for our air valves, which is the one over here off the tank, and also for our accessory. So we'll get those done and then we'll show you how to put those on. Okay, guys, so we got our accessories, and what that's going to do, that's going to allow us to be able to run an air hose off of this, tear up, some small tires or whatnot. And we're going to plug that right into our T valve here. Make sure we push it in there so that it's locked in place. And it is. So then we can take our line and we're going to start running our line. And this will be probably the worst part here, is just running this line. And we're going to run it across over to here, and kind of like we did the other one. And then we're going to follow that wiring harness back to the back of the truck, and then I'll show you where we're going to put our accessory valve. You can put yours anywhere you want to. So here we go. Okay, so then what we're going to do once we get it to here is we're going to need to let the truck down, because we're going to go inside the bed and we're going to drill a hole in there to attach our accessory valve, so that way we can hook our air hose up at the back of our truck if we need to use it for something. So let's do that. Hey guys, you can see here we've went ahead and drilled in a hole through the box of our truck and put our accessory valve in there. We've ran our line up here. What we need to do is now is just cut it off and attach it. Just pushes in just like all the other connectors. But before we do that, we're going to raise the truck back up and we're going to go down underneath and get this line all tied up in place where it's going to be, so that way we don't cut it too short or just have too much. So let's do that, and then we'll come back, plug this in, put it all back together. All right guys, we've just about got our install of our Firestone Air-Rite control system done. We got one last thing we got to do here to complete it, and that's to put our air filter on. I've went ahead and opened this up to show you that the filter element inside, you need to double check this before you install it to make sure that this is in fact in here and that it's in here properly. And this just unclips to take it off. And you'll also notice that it comes with spare ones so that way when this one gets dirty you can replace them, and then it just clips right back together. Now what we're going to do with this, there's a couple things you can do. This comes in a kit with the Air-Rite system. You can either do this remotely if you got your compressor down low someplace where it's going to be collecting a lot of dirt or something and you don't want to get that dirt in there, or like how we have ours where it's way up high here, it's not going to get a lot of dirt and stuff in it. Then we can just take this and screw it right into the end of our compressor over here, and that's what we're going to do with ours. The remote kit has a couple barbs and some tube, so you can mount it up someplace out of the way where it's not going to be sucking up water or anything like that. So let's get this on here, and then we're going to show you, let this truck down and show you guys how to operate the remote control system to inflate the airbags. So we're just going to take our air filter then and just screw it right into the end of the compressor here. Now, one thing to keep in mind on this, guys, you don't need any Teflon tape or anything like that, because this air filter is made out of plastic, so it will seal up in the threads really easily. And we're just going to screw it down in there. Don't over tighten it, just make sure it's tight so that it doesn't fall off. Now that we've got our Firestone Air-Rite air control system hooked up in our truck, we've got our wireless remote here charging on the cigarette lighter adapter. And what we're going to do then is I'm going to show you guys how to operate this, because we need to test the system, make sure everything's functioning the way it's supposed to. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and turn the ignition on, because if you guys remember right, we wired this up to only operate on the ignition. And then we're going to hit the select button on our wireless remote. Now the thing is that you can use this while it's charging, so that's kind of a cool thing. And it has a clip on it, so you can belt clip it or just keep it clipped on your visor. Now when it comes on, it's going to come on and it's going to show you a screen like this, and that's going to tell you how much air is currently in each one of your airbags. So that those air ports that we put on, you can hook that hose onto them and use those to air up like some inflatable rafts, bicycle tires, and whatever you might need to air up. And in order to do that, you just set this to the ACC, and that's really easy to do. What you do then is you just move your controllers here, and then it'll set those to where you want to go. Now when you put it on that mode and you hit the select button, it's automatically going to turn stuff on and activate that. So what we're going to do though is we're going to go back here to our air springs, and we're going to set those. I've got it set so that I'm doing both at the same time, or you can do them individually. If you get a little weight too heavy on one side of the truck, you can adjust it. But what we're going to do is we're going to do them both at the same time. And then I'm just going to push the up arrow, and that's going to set these to where we want to go with them. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to set these just to start, just to make sure everything's good, to 20 pounds, and then we'll go ahead and air them up from there to 70. Now, once you get it set here, you can go ahead and hit the select. It tells you in the instruction sheet how to operate the memory, but once you set it, if you want to do the memory, you just push and hold the memory button down, and it'll set it for whatever memory button you push. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the select now and get these airing up. And so there you go, guys. There you have it. It's just that quick, simple, and easy to install the Firestone Air-Rite air control system onto your truck. So remember, until next time, happy motoring.